Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys. Once again we are building up to Saturday's big game, El Clásico, Real Madrid against Barcelona, and we are going to be discussing potential lineups, potential formations and potential tactics in today's video. And one big question, will Ousmane Dembélé feature in this match? We're going to be going over all that and more in today's video as we look ahead to that massive game coming up on Saturday at the Santiago Bernabeu. And for me, going into this game, obviously it's massive on the side of Valverde, it's massive on the side of Zinedine Zidane, and for me, on Valverde's side, there is three big questions going into this game. The first one, I just mentioned, will Dembélé play any part at all in this game? Number two, I think he's got to choose between Vermaelen and he's got to choose between Mascherano. One of those two players will start alongside Gerard Piqué in the Clásico. Which one is he going to go with? And also, what formation is he going to start the game with against Real Madrid? Will it be the usual 4-3-3 system that we're so used to seeing at Barcelona, especially in these types of games, or will he stick with the 4-4-2 that we have seen so far for the majority of the season from Valverde since Dembélé got injured? All of those questions we're going to be going over, and we're going to be looking at the potential lineup that Valverde will be using, and we're also going to be looking at the threats that Real Madrid will pose going into Saturday's game. But firstly, let's assess that first question, will Dembélé be playing any part on Saturday against Real Madrid? And the short answer from me right now in this moment, I would say it is highly unlikely that we will see him against Real Madrid. As the weeks have been going on, I think his recovery has been going fantastically well. He's worked tremendously hard to get himself in the situation that he is right now, but there is absolutely no chance at all that he's going to start the game on Saturday. There is a very slim chance that he could be introduced as a substitute. He could find himself on the bench, but to do that, he obviously has to continue the training sessions. He's got to complete all the sessions, and the medical team will be analysing his data and seeing whether he is ready to play on Saturday. It might just be too soon for him. He's always been targeting the very start of 2018, very early January. We've got some big games coming up in that period. Dembélé's always had that in mind, but he's always trying to get himself in contention for El Clásico, even if it might come slightly too soon for him, unfortunately. And I think the same could be said for Rafinha. He got the medical green light yesterday. Fantastic news for him. He's going to be returning to the first team very shortly to get some action on the pitch. But again, I think this is a very big game. He's not had a lot of games, of course, in recent months. He's been plagued with injuries, and I think this one is going to come too soon for him. There's going to be a lot of games in 2018 where there's no doubt about it. If he's fit, he can certainly be involved, but this one, again, might just be too soon. And now on to my second question that I posed about Valverde. Will he go with Mascherano, or will he stick with Thomas Vermaelen? And before I go on, I just want to talk about Vermaelen, because obviously during his time at Barcelona, it's been very difficult for him. It's been very difficult for us. He was brought in as a player to reinforce our centre-back position, but a lot of the time we've not had him on the pitch simply because he's been plagued with injuries. He's not had a sort of clean bill of health for a long time to see him, but every time he has been fit and every time he's actually got himself on the pitch to play, he does look very decent. You know, he's not world class, he's not the best thing we've ever seen at centre-back, but when he plays, you can't really fault him in a lot of areas. He certainly does the job. He's a very good backup, and in the games that we've seen him in very recently, he's played a lot of games in very quick succession when he was hardly used at all up to the time where Umtiti got injured. He's come in, he's done really well, and I think he deserves credit for that. You know, we really did need him, we really did need to count on him, and fair play to him, so far he has delivered. And that is why I personally believe going into this game on Saturday, Vermaelen will start alongside Piqué. I don't think Valverde is going to disrupt that partnership. I don't think they've been magnificent in recent weeks, but I think they've been fairly decent, and I think both of them as a partnership understand each other now. I think both of them have been playing with each other week in, week out, and I just don't know where Mascherano is right now. You don't really know where his head is. A lot of information coming out today that a deal has already been agreed now for him to go to China. We might get a bit more of the transfer fee. 10 million euros apparently is the amount that he's going to go for, but apparently that's all done. So he's got his mind maybe on leaving the club. We don't really know where he's at. Obviously, he hasn't played a lot of football recently either, so there's that side of it as well. And you just wonder whether this game will be too big too soon. Even though he's an incredibly dependable character, you can always rely on him, especially in the big games. It might still be one game to throw him into. He hasn't played since injury. You don't know where his head is at. Maybe it would be better to stick with Vermaelen, stick with Piqué, who've been pretty dependable in recent weeks. And then my third question, of course, was about the formation, 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. Now, I know a lot of us don't really like the 4-4-2 system, and I just want to clarify on that because I don't completely hate it, but I just think as a Barcelona team, the way that we play, it's all set up around 4-3-3. That's the way that we want to play. We want to base everything around midfield. We want to have wide players. We want to have width from both the wingers and the fullbacks, and I think 4-3-3 really does put all that into place. But obviously right now, Valverde's limited with what he can do. You know, Deulofeu was injured, but he hasn't been in great form anyway. Alex Vidal has come in and done a job for Valverde, but obviously he's not, you know, in the world-class category. So what Valverde has chosen to do is go with Messi and Suarez up top a lot of the time and put 4 midfielders in there instead. And I have to say, in some games it's sort of been dubbed as very boring, and I can completely understand that. At times it's very slow, it's very lethargic, the build-up is not at all, you know, quick, the tempo isn't great in the team, and I can understand that boring point of view. But I think particularly in the big games, you look at the game against Valencia away from home, that 4 in midfield gave us a lot of control and we could dictate the pace, and that's exactly what we want to do in this kind of game. And that brings me on to what I think is the colossal point about El Clásico, and that is simply the fact that Real Madrid going into this game have to win. They absolutely have to win this game. Right now, we're 11 points clear of them. Yes, they have a game in hand, but that doesn't really matter going into this. Even if they win that game in hand, it's still 8 points. If we draw this game with Real Madrid in the away Clásico, we can still face them at the Camp Nou. We've got the advantage there, and right now they have to win this game. There's no doubt about that, and that is an absolute ideal situation for a coach. Valverde going into this game knows that Real Madrid at some point are going to have to come onto us. They're going to have to attack, they're going to have to commit men forward, and when they do that, Valverde is going to have his team set up to pick them off. They're going to have to do that, and I think the other thing as well, the massive point for me will be whether Gareth Bale starts this game. He's come back into the Real Madrid fold in recent weeks, he's been coming off the bench, he got a goal in the Club World Cup, and I think it's really important whether he starts this game, because if Real Madrid go with Ronaldo, Benzema and Bale, if they go 4-3-3, I think we've got them. I really, really do. If they go 4-3-3 and they go with Bale, Ronaldo and Benzema, I think we've got a really, really good chance of really catching them out, using that 4 midfield in the best possible way, because they got real quality in that midfield. You know, they got Kroos, they got Modric, and those kind of players can dictate. But I think going the other way, if they play 4-3-3, those 4 in midfield can really hurt them. And I'm going to come on to my lineup now, because I think Paulinho will be involved, I think Valverde will pick Rakitic, and I think that 4 in midfield really could work as long as we dictate the pace of the game. We have to keep our calmness. We don't have to go out in this game, we don't have to blow them off the park. We're in a very commanding position, and we've got to accept that. We've got to accept that, deal with what Real Madrid throw at us, and hit them going the other way. And this is the lineup that I think Valverde will go with. Ter Stegen in goal, Jordi Alba, Vermaelen, Piqué, and I think he'll go with Sergio Roberto at right back, and I'm going to come on to that a bit more in a few minutes. I think Busquets will be back in midfield, Iniesta, who was absolutely unbelievable in our last game against Deportivo. I think Rakitic to the right, and then Paulinho a bit more advanced. He will provide a bit of attacking prowess, if you like, in the final third. He'll link up with Suarez, he'll link up with Messi, and he can be that link between midfield and attack, which is what you desperately need in a 4-4-2 formation. But the important thing about this 4-4-2 is not only how we're going to do going forward, because Paulinho going forward can certainly give us a lot, but it's really important as well how we set up defensively. And I think that 4-4-2 has got a few variations of it. When we're going forward, Paulinho will be just behind Messi and Suarez, Busquets will drop in. When we're defending, when we're trying to be compact as possible, that's going to get very, very narrow. We're going to have 4 players right across the middle, we're going to have Iniesta just off to the left, we're going to have Rakitic off to the right, and I'm going to come on to that further, because I think there can be a massive improvement on that right hand side, and I'll be telling you about that in a minute. And then you've got Busquets and Paulinho in the midfield too, and that's where you're going to be tested. You're going to be tested in that midfield too, coming up against Kroos and coming up against Modric. I think Paulinho has got to have the game of his life in this kind of game, but to be honest, although I wasn't behind him, and I wasn't, and I still maintain that he's not the right profile for our midfield, if he can deal with Kroos and Modric in that midfield position and hurt Real Madrid going the other way, fair play to him. Very well done, because that's what we're going to need him to do in this kind of game. And then you've got Messi and Suarez up front, who are certainly going to occupy Real Madrid centre-backs, and then going forward then, their full-backs are going to cause a real problem. Iniesta and Rakitic are going to have to do defensive work, they're going to have to track back at times. Jordi Alba and Sergio Roberto, when Real Madrid are coming onto us, they're going to have to stay deep, they're going to have to stay compact, and that's the most important thing. That midfield 4, when we're defending, has got to get narrow, they've got to be compact, and they've got to all help each other out, because Real Madrid, if they go with 3 up top, I really do fancy our chances against them, because I think in that midfield we can really hurt them. We can get the ball, we can dictate things, we can really mess around with them, pull them out of position, create spaces, and that's where the game is won and lost. But I just want to show you this particular formation right here, and you'll notice a very, very interesting variation on that right hand side like I discussed. Now, I'm not just plucking this out of nowhere, I would love to see this happen, and I've been saying it now for a number of weeks, but earlier on today, Sport actually reported that Valverde was considering doing something like this in a massive game that is El Clásico, putting Semedo at right back and then Roberto slightly in front of him, not as a right winger, but when we're in that 4, he can be a centre midfielder, and when we're defending, he can help out Semedo. And I think down that right hand side, you've got Marcelo, who's outstanding going forward, you've got Ronaldo, who will hang around on the left from time to time, and he'll look to cut in. And I think if you've got two right backs on that side, one that's very, very capable going forward in Semedo, one in Sergio Roberto that is very, very capable of picking up the ball, controlling things, being that midfield player, but he also understands the game defensively now. He's also played as a right back, and I think the two of them on that right hand side would give us a lot more pace, would give us a lot more versatility. They can both cover for each other, and they're a lot better defensively than I think Rakitic is when he's pushed out on that right. Rakitic for me is a very good player, and he still is a very good player on his day, but he's not suited as a right wing type position. Sergio Roberto is very versatile. He can do that role, and I think him and Semedo together would do very well going forward. It would cause Real Madrid problems, and I think defensively we would be a lot more secure with those two in the team. And that is the question that I will leave you with today, guys, provided that obviously Dembélé doesn't make it and he's not going to start the game for sure. So I think we'll definitely stick with this 4-4-2 formation, even though there are different variations on it. So going forward, it'll look completely different to how it does when we're defending. But which team would you rather? You know, would you rather Rakitic on that right hand side with Paulinho more central going forward, or would you rather Sergio Roberto and Semedo together on that right hand side, plugging things there, making everything compact, and also causing Real Madrid a problem on the break? I personally think that last formation there is really nice for this kind of game. We've seen Roberto before play midfield in a Clásico. That was the 4-0 away from home, and he was instrumental on that day in midfield, and I think we can recreate something very similar. Bring Semedo back in. His pace will be massive in this kind of game, and it could well work out. But obviously, it's a very big game to try something that hasn't really been worked before now. That's why I wanted to see this tried out in other games first, before trying it for the first time in El Clásico. But as you know, Valverde was open to things, he will try things, and he certainly could experiment and really take a gamble in this game, but it could well pay off very big dividends for us. So as always, guys, in this kind of moment, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm going to be doing polls on my community section after this game, so you guys can get further involved there. But what do you think about the lineup? What do you think about the players that I selected? Do you think Dembélé is going to be involved at any point in this game? Would you go with Vermaelen over Mascherano like I think Valverde will? And would you stick with this 4-4-2? Obviously, we're focusing on trying to win the game, but if we don't, if we draw it, it's not a massive problem for us. Real Madrid have got to go to the Bernabeu in front of their own fans, very demanding fans, and they know they've got to win this game. The pressure is firmly on them, and we have to keep reminding them that. They've got to win the game, we simply absorb, and then we hurt them. I will see you very soon with more videos, but until then, as always, Visca El Barça. Barça, Barça, Barça.